Welcome back to the channel. My name is Explicit Sage and we're continuing the review of the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. It's great to finally play this cool remastered trilogy, and today the agenda is Mass Effect 2. Let's get right into the video, and today we're going to be considering every single aspect that the game has to offer, and we'll talk about the multiple improvements and regressions compared to the great original Mass Effect 1. And if you haven't seen the first video, I would definitely advise that you go ahead and give it a listen, give it a real gander. And why do I say that? What are you going to get? What are you going to miss if you don't watch that first video? Well, I'd say the main reason is that you pretty much don't deserve to watch this video if you haven't seen the original. That's a pretty good reason. But you guys of course know I'm playing, but I definitely do recommend that you go out and check out that first video. So guys, let's get right into it. This is my patient gamer review of Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 is undoubtedly a step up visually and in terms of gameplay. From the loading screen, it's clear to see that BioWare put real intention into making significant improvements. The stiffness and jankiness that plagued Mass Effect 1 is all but gone. Mass Effect has also made huge improvements into making the gameplay and the story that much more enjoyable. Unfortunately though, as Mass Effect and BioWare become more streamlined, as they become more prominent through the great success of Mass Effect 1, some of the unique things about this game that were perhaps controversial questions and implementations were definitely tossed away as their approach widened. Visually, the game now actually looks really good. BioWare in the original did do a very good job of creating and crafting a very unique art style that blends really well with their great world building. While textures and stuff were pretty rough in the original, the other aspects of the game still made Mass Effect enjoyable from a visual perspective. Now, in Mass Effect 2, you get the best of both worlds. You can not only see that BioWare have truly refined their identity in Mass Effect 2, but with the vast improvements to textures and visual fidelity, makes Mass Effect 2 a feast for the eyes. Now obviously it's nothing crazy compared to what's been released in 2023, but for a remaster that came out a while ago, it's still a great way for new players to enjoy this classic. The gameplay is also vastly improved. Now I'll be honest, Mass Effect games and their gameplay is definitely not going to be the reason you're going to keep playing these games. I'll be absolutely honest with you, it's probably these games' weakest points. But with these improvements to smoothness, the visual fidelity, the gameplay improvements, it's definitely much more enjoyable, and the gameplay isn't going to be something that's a slog that perhaps it was for you if you did play the original. It definitely was rough at times, especially after you've played the game for maybe over 15 or 20 hours. The gameplay and everything associated with it definitely did start to become, unfortunately, dry. There are many more animations, more details, improved weapon designs, cool new abilities that you are introduced to through yourself and through your plentiful number of companions. All of this gelling together makes for an interesting gameplay experience, without a doubt. But that isn't the glue that holds everything together. The star of Mass Effect is undoubtedly its characters, unique world, and story. That is the case for most of the trilogy, but I'd have to say that the story is definitely weaker than in the original. Not because their storytelling abilities have deteriorated in any way, not at all, but they chose to switch gears and spend a huge amount of time with the companions you attain as you complete your story.
You should have taken him alive, see what he knew.
Too risky. I've put too much time and effort bringing him back to life.
Now, you see, in Mass Effect 2, you are no longer a great and cool spectre of the Citadel, essentially the UN or international or intergalactic government. You are now the pride and joy of a very huge and powerful and wealthy conglomerate, Cerberus, which is known for having a bad reputation for doing multiple questionable things throughout their tenure. You continue to play as Commander Shepard as Cerberus help you out a great deal after a freak attack from the main villains of Mass Effect 2. I would honestly have to say that the plot this time around is weaker, as focus is kind of lost, but not exactly. The focus of the game is rather diverted to your companions. In this game, you completely lose your old team and need to rebuild a team proudly funded by Cerberus. The Collectors and the Reapers are your main enemies. The bulk of the game is spent recruiting your many comrades. You spend time finding them, then doing companion missions to earn their trust. In total, there are 12 companions you can recruit overall, and you'll have multiple decisions to make over time that may end up in their death or other things. Each one has a side quest that develops them quite well. Unfortunately though, this time, the time and effort has been diverted away from the main storyline. Main story missions are less substantial and are far and in between. You would think that this would cause huge issues, but it actually doesn't. These companion stories and side quests are quite great and add real depth to the people who will ride and possibly even die with you. Unfortunately though, this results in there being no exciting solitary villain like we did have in Mass Effect 1. The Collectors just end up becoming an entity that needs to be defeated as they're working alongside and with the Reapers. Now, Mass Effect 2 is great, but it's clear to see that some of the main content for the main quest was held back for Mass Effect 3, the finale of the trilogy. As an RPG, quite a bit has also changed. A bit much has been gained, but quite a lot has also been lost as the game becomes more and more streamlined as their reach widens. Their RPG elements are a lot less intensive as your Shepard is able to use weapons that are outside of your chosen class. Before, your class selection was pivotal as you were locked out of quite a bit of gear. You still can't wear heavy armor, for example, if you're a Vanguard who is supposed to be a quick and agile biotic and weapons master, but you can still pick up a sniper here and there and go wild. The streamlining goes deeper. Let's consider how side quests are handled. There definitely is still plenty player choice, but the way in which you find them and complete them is kind of similar and simple. In the original, you'd have to listen intently to find the next location of your objective, or even to find a new quest. In Mass Effect 2, there is much less of them, but not that the content is necessarily lost, but that space has been taken up by the companion quest, as the kind of best of both worlds is that these companion quests are actually indeed optional, but I'll be honest, it would be a foolish decision of you to not actually do them. Unintentionally or possibly intentionally, Mass Effect 2's side content becomes heavily formulaic. By this I mean, you had to think less to do the content. It eventually became a boring process from a structural perspective. Step 1, you get information about this companion from Miranda or the elusive man. You go help and save that companion. You talk to them, you unlock their companion quest, complete that quest, and get max relationship, then repeat. Now, I'm not going to give them a huge amount of slackers. In these companion quests, they are quite varied. You go to different locations and you do different things depending on which companion quest that you are doing. But from a structural perspective, the style and way in which you complete them is exactly the same. The more you play the game, you will get this exact same vibe. The uniqueness that the main quest and side content of the original game gave you is kind of lost as you follow these formulaic companion quests. Now, I'll be honest, these quests are absolutely great and some of the best content in the game is included in this content. But I genuinely would have preferred less companions and more attention go into deeper or long side content, or a more interesting antagonist overall, not just an entity that is the Collectors. If we had less companions, more time and effort could have been focused on maybe developing 1 or 2 companions and making their storyline a lot longer and deeper. Because while I will say the side content and side quests aren't short, but I think it would have been better to have more depth instead of quantity in this case. Now, I've complained a wee bit about these quests, but Mass Effect 2 is still great. Much gained, much lost. I say this because this makes the world building that much better. There's no better way to learn about any culture than through its people. We learn much about the Krogans, the Quarians, the Geth, the Drells, and so much more. So much depth is achieved here, much more than the original as you interact with so many different people of different races, and you get a conclusive understanding of a way and how these people think. I'll say this again, so much can be done in the world of Mass Effect in terms of content. Many side stories that don't involve the main cast. By this I mean completely different games from multiple different developers, not just to be restricted by BioWare. This is undoubtedly gaming's Star Wars. Things even such as TV shows, movies could be made from this entity and this world. The lore is extensively deep. All in all, this sequel did its job really well, improving the game in every single way, visuals, gameplay, and everything in between. It successfully expanded the world of Mass Effect while also providing depth through the people that inhabit it. Mass Effect 2 indeed lost some of its indiness as it becomes more streamlined. The hand-holding and formulaic quest structure does become apparent, but I'll be honest, it still didn't detract from this great experience. If you're asking for my personal opinion as a reviewer, Mass Effect 2 is an 8 out of 10. An amazing game. This title has stood the test of time and will remain a gaming classic, to be the building blocks for masterpieces of the future, and I'm certain that as an RPG buff, there are plenty other game developers and gamers who are thankful for this title, as other great games I'm sure have taken many aspects to build on. Thank you for joining me today, as we will return once again with my conclusive review of Mass Effect 3. Keep on the lookout for that one, as I will definitely include a value section for the entire trilogy. As this game is sold entirely as one big packaged remaster, I'll be able to give you guys a huge amount of price deals and tips where and when to pick this game up, so you don't hurt the bank a little bit too much. And as I mentioned before, if you haven't seen the first video where I talk about Mass Effect 1, I would definitely advise you to go and check that out, and also check out my other content where I also talk about other gaming reviews, gaming topics, true gaming topics, and anime as well. Take it easy, gents. My name is Explicit Sage. I'm out.